a good one. I love that stuff.
All right, here's the deal. Last hoorah of the year. You're going to have a couple of these worksheets, 2, maybe 3. All right, I'm going to guide you through each one of these problems. I'm going to give you a second version of these problems. All you need to do is look at your notes of what you do in class, go home, do it on your own, hand it in, get 100, get 16 points.
Wait, this is 16 points?
2 points each. All right, there's 8 questions on here, 2 points each. So I'm going to guide you through how to do these. I'm going to remind you of the geometry topics that you need. You're going to, like Ms. MC said, I infused tons of algebra in here, really a lot of factoring in here, just to keep you factoring as fresh as possible for next year for Algebra 2. So I'm going to guide you through the concepts you need for geometry. Once you got the little ish of the geometry, you apply the algebra piece of it, you go home, you do your own. Hand it in, I grade it, and you got yourself 16 points. Cool, which is a nice little grade boost. So if you're at a 75, these 16 points and the next 16 points could actually bring you really close to a B or whatnot. Okay? All right. First one, all right, is this piece here. You have a straight line with an angle in between it. So first thing I want you guys to remind me of, if you have a straight line here, 180. How many degrees in a straight line? So if you were to put a protractor on here, from one end to the other end is 180 degrees. With me? So that's the first piece of information you need to know. So any straight line is 180 degrees. Well, if I take that straight line and I split it somewhere, doesn't have to be in the middle, and I split it, then I create 2 angles, right? This angle to the left and this angle to the right. Tell me something about those 2 angles. They add up to 180. With me? So if you just draw a straight line anywhere, you put a protractor on it, from left to right to left, however way you measure it, it's 180 degrees. You want to throw an angle in between these, in between somewhere, it doesn't matter where. You split that angle, well, both these angles together will make 180. Questions so far? All right, so let's do that. So there's the geometry concept, and now let's use the algebra behind this. We just said that these 2 angles together total 180 degrees. What's the first angle? What's this first angle here? What did I use for that first angle? 20, 30, or 3x squared minus 10x plus 160. Sorry, so the first angle here is 3x squared minus 10x plus 160, right? That's angle 1, for my first angle. What's the second angle?
2x squared.
Yeah, the other one. So plus, the second angle here is 2x squared minus 11x plus 38. That's my second angle, angle 2. And together, they both make 180 degrees because they're on that straight line. All right, so now here's the algebra. That's the geometry. All right, that's the concept of the geometry. You have a straight line, it's 180 degrees. Split the angle anywhere. The 2 angles together make 180. Okay, so now here's the algebra piece of this. I want to solve this. How do I solve this? What should I do on the left-hand side? Combine like terms. Okay, so 3x squared and a 2x squared combine, and you get 5x squared. All right, a negative 10x and a negative 11x combine to make a negative 21x. And then lastly, my 160 and 38 is a positive 198, and that all equals to 180. All right, so the key piece here now, for the algebra piece of this, I'm noticing that this has a square to it. So if this has a square, then this is going to be some kind of quadratic. Cool. If it's quadratic, then what should it equal before I solve this? Should it equal 180 or should it equal 0? Okay, so it's going to equal 0. So let's bring that 180 over to the left-hand side. So I'm going to subtract 180 from both sides. And I got 5x squared minus 21x, and then plus 198 minus 180 is 18 equals 0. Now that seems a little nicer to solve. All right, and then here's your factoring. All right, from this piece on, you're going to factor this any way you like. Okay, different techniques I've showed you. You go with whatever choice you choose. All right, if you're doing the technique I showed you in class, I'll write this one up here. So we got 5x squared minus 21x plus 18 equals 0. All right, so I'm gonna make that little box here. And I'm gonna do the AC method here. So 5 times 18, right? That's my product. 5 times 18, 50 and 40 is 90. Positive 90, make sure you bring that sign. And I want the factors of positive 90. I want the factors of positive 90 to add up to your B term, which in this case is negative 21. So what multiplies to 90 and adds up to negative 21? So on your calculator, if you go into y equals and you do 90 over x, you can find a couple factors there, unless you know them off the top of your head. 1 and 90, 2 and 45, 3 and 60. Yep.
-6 and -15.
So -6 and -15, okay? So -6 times -15 is positive 90. -6 plus -15 is negative 21. Awesome. All right, so here, however we're going to factors. So I'm going to I'm going to open up my my two quantities here. I'm going to start by putting x minus 6 and x minus 15. And because my a value is 5, I'm going to go ahead one more time and divide both of these by 5. If I can't simplify it, I'm going to slide it over to the left, and I'll call this 5x minus 6. And this one can simplify, and this one's just going to be x minus 3 equals 0. Take each one, solve both of them out. One does 5x minus 6 equals 0, when x is equal to 6/5. When does x minus 3 equal 0? When x is equal to 3. So ideally you want to test both these numbers and make sure they both work. I'll save you the time. They actually both work. Okay, so your answer is 6/5 and x equals 3. Okay, so that's just solving for x. And that's all I asked for in this one was to solve for x. If it wants you to solve for the angle, how would you go get the angle? Yeah, just plug in. So if you want, you can plug in 3, 3 in for x. For all of them, you can find the first angle, then you can find the second angle, and you're all done. All right, so if it asks you to take that extra step, go for it. And this worksheet is just solving for x and y. Cool? All right, so that's a little factoring. Let's do the next one here. All right, so here we have a triangle. And the first thing I'm seeing is a triangle. And what do I know about a triangle? So let's get some facts about a triangle. Yeah, okay, so all together, all the angles, right? Angles equal 180 degrees. Cool. I like that. So how many angles are in here? 3 angles. So we'll call this angle 1, angle 2, and angle 3. So that means if all the angles, so angle 1, angle 2, and angle 3, like you just said, is equal to 180 degrees. All right, so let's fill that in. What's angle 1? 4x plus 5y is angle 1. What's angle 2? 11x. And what's angle 3? 6y minus 5. And all three of those equal 180 degrees. Right, so you just told me each angle, or all the angles in a triangle equal 180. Great. Here's the 3 angles. And this time this has 2 different variables in this one, but I'm still going to combine like terms. I got a 4x and an 11x. Those are like terms. 4x and 11x is 15x. I also have a positive 5y and a positive 6y, 11y, and I'm going to finish this off and say minus 5 equals 180. So in this equation, I have x's and y's, and then I have a constant. And I'm just going to bring this 5 over. So I got 15x plus 11y equals 185. Can I solve this equation? Can I solve one single equation with 2 different variables? The answer is no, right? So you can't solve one equation with 2 variables. in order for me to solve an equation with two variables, I would need a second equation, bless you, I would need a second equation with the same two variables. So can I make another equation? The answer is yes. Okay, you can make another equation. So I'm going to look a little deeper into this triangle here. And what else do you notice about this picture of the triangle? What visuals do you see?
The lines. Doesn't that show there?
What does this triangle have? Like, what's on the image? What do you notice here?
Two lines. On
Yeah, it's got the two lines. Okay, cool. So these two lines are not by accident. These two lines mean something. What do those two lines mean on the triangle?
Like congruent.
Yeah, that means this whole side here is equal to that whole side there, or they're both congruent. Okay, because they're both the same. They're both the same measurements. So if these two sides are the same, then what kind of triangle is this? Cool. So this becomes an isosceles triangle. Okay. So two sides are the same. It's an isosceles triangle. Well, if two sides are the same, then what else is the same? Two sides are the same, and what else is the same? Yeah, so the opposite angle. So that angle is congruent to that angle. So which two angles are equal to each other? Yeah, so
2 and 3.
angle 2 is equal to angle 3, and like you said, it's 11x is equal to 6y minus 5. So my first equation I got was 15x plus 11y equals 185. And here's my second equation, and what I want to do is make it kind of look like the first equation. So all I'm going to do is bring over the 6y. So I'm going to do 11x, and when you bring a positive 6y and the opposite side of the equal sign, it becomes what? Negative 6y equals negative 5. And now there's two equations with two of the same variables. And I'm going to do you a favor here, and I'm going to write those equations right on top of one another. So I'm going to write 15x plus 11y was the first equation I came up with, knowing that all three angles in a triangle are equal to 180 degrees. And then the second equation I came up with after changing things or moving things around was 11x minus 6y equals negative 5, knowing that the opposite sides of an isosceles triangles are the same. And now you have two equations, two variables. Both these equations are in standard form. How do I solve this? What technique can I use to solve this?
Divide by like a common denominator.
Close. Give you a hint. Starts with an E. So
We
it's
used this the other day.
two equations.
Add straight down. What do we call it?
Elimination, yeah. So right now, I would love to just add these two straight down and have something eliminate. But if I add 15 and 11, I get 26x. Does that eliminate? So that doesn't work. If I add 11 minus 6y, I get 5y. Does that eliminate? So that doesn't work, all right? So what happens now? I have to multiply both equations or one equation by something. So in this case, I need you guys a little help here with your calculator. I'm going to try to eliminate my x's or my y's. Doesn't matter, but I'll go after the x's. I'm going to turn this one. I'm going to multiply the 15x by 11, and I'm going to multiply the 11 by 15. And when I multiply that, I'll get the same number. But I want one of them to eliminate. So what should I do a little differently here? Make one of them negative. And it doesn't matter which one. So I'll make my bottom one negative. All right, so a little help on this one. So 15 times 11, you should get, I believe, 165x. Right, and that's me distributing. 11 times 11 is 121y. And the last one, 11 times 185. No, that's going to be bigger than that. Can somebody help me on that one? What's the 2,035. Okay? All right, and then I'm going to do the bottom one. Negative 15 times 11x. Again, negative 165x. Negative 15 times negative 6y. Watch out. Negative times a negative becomes a positive. And 15 times 6 is 90y. And then last one, negative 15 times negative 5. Again, positive. 1525 is 75. All right, now we're in business. 165x and negative 165x, that's the one that eliminates. See you later. 121y plus 90y is 211y. And it equals 2035 plus 75, 2110, I believe. All right, one last step. I don't want 211y, I just want y. How do I get rid of the 211? Yep, divide by 211 on both sides. Oh, how nice. And y is equal to 10. I got my y. Let's finish this off. Let's go get my x. How do I get my x? Yeah, take one equation, doesn't matter which one. I'll take this bottom one here, and I'll write 11 times x minus 6 times y equals -5. I now know what y is. Y is going to be 10. So I'm going to plug in 10 here. So 11x minus 60 equals -5. Solve for x, add for 60 both sides. 11x equals 55. Divide by 11, and x is equal to 5. So now you solve for x and y. So x equals 5, and y equals 10, with elimination. Yep.
Couldn't you just put the y in one of the angles, like 6y minus 5?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yep, you could have put it in the other one as well. Yeah, you could have plugged in the y here. 6 times y is 10, 10 minus 5. Yeah, absolutely. Yep, either option. Nice, cool. All right, so we got some factoring, some systems equations. That's what you're going to see mostly on this worksheet. All right, let's do another one. So I'm confident in your factoring. I'm confident in your systems and equations. The only hard part here is, what's the equation? All right. You have a triangle. You have an angle outside the triangle. All right, so I drew a triangle. I extended one of the sides here, and I drew this angle outside the triangle. What's the angle outside the triangle called? Starts with E. Yeah, exterior angle. All right, so you have two interior angles and one exterior angle. Now the angle right next to it has a name to it as well. So the two angles next to each other has a name, and the angle right next to it starts with A. AD, adjacent angle, right? So the angle right next to it is adjacent, right? So there was a little theorem that said something about if you drew a triangle and you have an exterior angle, it says the exterior angle is equal to the sum of the two non-adjacent angles. So I don't want the angle that's right next to it, right? I don't want this angle here. That's the adjacent one. What I want is the sum of the two non-adjacent angles. So I'll call this angle 1 here, and I'll call this angle 2 here. So the sum of angle 1 plus angle 2, and these two are the non-adjacent. Or the
Remote interiors.
remote interior angles. Okay, so remote interior angles, two non-adjacent angles. Yep.
Should we make it equal to 180?
So we're not gonna do 180 because the 180 is all three angles inside, but I don't have all inside angles. I have one outside and two non-adjacent or remote interior. So the exterior angle is going to equal the sum of these two. So what's my exterior angle? 14x squared plus 10x minus 1 equals the sum of the two non-adjacent or the remote interior angles. So the first one is 6x squared plus 6, and the second one is 30x plus 5. All right, so that exterior angle, don't use the adjacent angle, don't use the angle right next to it. The exterior angle is equal to the two remote interior angles or two non-adjacent angles. All right, and after this part, then the rest of this is just algebra. All right, so I'm noticing again that there's a square involved here. So if there's a square, I'm thinking quadratic. If I'm thinking quadratic, everything goes to the left, make it equal to 0. or everything goes to the right, whatever. Bring everything over to one side. Make it equal to 0. All right, so here we go. I'm going to bring over the 6x squared. I'm going to subtract 6x squared first. That leaves me 8x squared. In this case, I have a 30x. I'm going to subtract a 30x over. And that leaves me with negative 20x. And this one, I'm going to combine these first. I have positive 6 and positive 5, which is what? 11. So I have a positive 11. So I'm going to bring over positive 11 by subtracting 11, which gives me minus 12 equals 0. All right, so I combined 6 and 5 to get positive 11, and then I brought the positive 11 over. So I should have probably cleaned up that side first. All right, but then once I bring everything over, I have 8x squared minus 20x minus 12. Before I go into factoring any of this, what should I do first to make life a little easier? Yeah, divide by something. What's the biggest factor that goes in here? 2 definitely goes in there, and so does 4. So I'm going to just divide everything by 4. All right, so I'll bring this up that way. So 8x squared divided by 4 is now 2x squared. Negative 20 divided by 4 is now negative 5x. And negative 12 divided by 4 is now negative 3. And that makes life a whole lot easier, this factor. Okay, so again, I have an a value. So don't forget to divide by your a value at the end. I'm going to do my technique here, a times c. A times c is negative 6. I want factors of a times c to give me my b value, which is negative 5. So what are factors of negative 6 that multiply and add to negative 5? Multiply negative 6 and add to negative 5.
1 and 6.
Yeah, 1 and 6. So negative 6 and positive 1. Multiply those two, you get negative 6. 1 minus 6 is my negative 5. Cool. So I'm going to open up my quantities here. First one's going to read x plus 1. Second one's going to read x minus 6. And I'm going to remember to divide both of these by my a value. Simplify if you can. In this case, you can't for the first factor. So this 2 is going to slide right in. So this is going to be 2x plus 1. And the second quantity, x minus 6 over 2, that simplifies to x minus 3, and all equal to 0. Take each one of these, set them equal to 0. When does 2x plus 1 equal 0? When does x minus 3 equal 0? The first one, add, subtract 1, and divide by 2. You get x is equal to negative 1/2. The second one, add 3 to both sides, and you get x is equal to 3. So again, make sure they both work. If I plug these numbers in, do I get, are they both valid answers? And the one that's really standing out to me is the negative 1/2. And I'm thinking to myself, if I plug in negative 1/2 in for x here, I get, what's 30 times negative 1/2? That's negative 15. And then negative 15 plus 5 gives me negative 10. Can I have a negative angle in there? So the negative 1/2 is extraneous. I'm not going to use that. So my only answer here is x equals 3. Right, so you should just double check, make sure they work or they don't work. All right, so again, the geometry concept here was the exterior angle is equal to the sum of the 2 remote interior or the sum of the 2 non-adjacent angles, either way you look at it. And then after that, you're just using all your algebra that you learned of factoring. Okay, so again, primarily factoring and systems of equations on these worksheets. All right, next one. Line L, and I got those 2 lines there. What does those 2 lines mean? Line L, something, line K. What do these 2 lines mean here? What's the meaning of those 2 lines?
Parallel.
Yeah, parallel. Okay, so it says line L is parallel to line K. Cool, so they never touch. They're exactly equidistant to each other throughout the whole line. Great. All right, I'm going to I'm going to ignore this side for a second, okay? So just ignoring this side for a quick second. If I have these two lines and I have these two angles, I have this 52 degrees and the 2x plus 6y, what's the relationship between these two angles here? There, so there's two parallel lines cut by another line. What's this line called? And it starts with a T. Yeah, transversal. Good. All right, so cut by this transversal. Now those two lines have a special name.
Is it alternate interior?
Yeah, those are alternate interior angles. So these things right here are called alternate interior angles. And not only are they called alternate interior angles, but they also have something in common. What do we know about these two angles now? So they're congruent, right? So they are equal or congruent. All right, so cool. So there's an equation right there. So from that side right there, you can say that your 2x plus 6y angle on the bottom right is equal to the other alternate interior angle, which is 52 degrees. Equation number 1 has two variables, one equation. Can I simplify or can I solve an equation with two variables? Nope. So I have two variables. What do I need? Another equation with the same two variables. All right, so I'm going to go back to this side here. Now I'm going to forget the side to the left and just focus on here on the right-hand side. What kind of angles are 71 degrees and 3x plus 8y? Same thing, alternate interior angles, and by the same principle, those two angles, so 3x plus 8y is equal to 71 degrees. So those alternate interior angles are congruent, right? So I kind of just split the picture. Left side, I looked at those two. I got one transversal splitting, the two parallel lines, making the 52 degrees and the 2x plus 6y degrees. And then I have the other side here with, this side is 71 and the 3x plus y. That second transversal is splitting these two, making a second group of alternate interior angles, making those two equal. Okay, well, that's the geometry. Now let's do the algebra. So how do I solve this? Elimination. Can I add these straight down and something eliminates?
No.
3 and 8, 2 and 3 doesn't eliminate, 6 and y doesn't eliminate. Okay, great. So let's multiply these equations. What are we multiplying by? What are we getting rid of, x or y? And it doesn't matter. X, cool. Top equation multiply by 3. Bottom equation multiply by 2. That gives me 6x and 6x. I want one 6x and I want one negative 6x. Which one do you want to make negative? The 3 or the 2? Top one negative? Great. Here it is. So I'm going to rewrite that top equation. Negative 3 times 2x. Negative 6x. Negative 3 times 6y. Negative 18y. Negative 3 times 152. Negative 156. Bottom equation. 2 times 3x. 6x. 2 times 8y. 16y. 2 times 71. 142. Draw a line between them and start the elimination process. Negative 6x and positive 6x eliminates. See you later. Negative 18y and positive 16y, negative 2y. Negative 156 and negative 142, negative 14. Good. And then divide by negative 2, divide by negative 2, and y is equal to 7. You got one of your answers? Great. Go get the other one. Which equation you want to choose? Doesn't matter. I'll choose the first one. 2 times x plus 6 times y is equal to 52. I know y. Y is what? 7. So here we go. So 2 times x plus 42 equals 52. Subtract 42 from both sides. 2x is equal to 10. Divide both sides by 2. And x is equal to 5. So your two answers, x equals 5 and x equals 7. Any questions so far on this first page? All right, so a couple concepts coming back at you. Starting from the first one, straight line, 180 degrees. Split that line anywhere. You make two angles that both equal 180 degrees. Second concept, you have a triangle. All the interior angles of a triangle is 180 degrees. If it's isosceles, two of the angles are the same, equal to each other. It's isosceles when two sides are the same. Third concept, your exterior angle is equal to the sum of the two non-adjacent angles. Make your equation, solve. And then lastly, the transversal. If you have two parallel lines, you cut a transversal, you get alternate interior angles. Some other ones out there are alternate exterior, corresponding. Right, those are all congruent. And then there was another one that's made same side interior angles. Right, and then that one wasn't the same, but those equal 180. Right, but
Same side supplementary.
same side supplementary. I like that. Oh, I like that. All right, here we go. Line L is what? Parallel. Okay, so we got parallel lines, cut by transversal. All right, here we go. What's the relationship between these two angles? What do you call them? Alternate interior. Alternate interior angles are congruent or equal. Perfect, done. That's it. So, easy enough. So 4x squared plus 16x plus 15 is equal to 63. You have a squared term, it's quadratic. Bring everything over, set equal to 0, and start factoring. All right, so I'm going to bring over the 63. 15 minus 63. I put 65 by accident. So 4x squared plus 16x minus 48 equals 0. Always before I factor, I'm going to... Yep.
Do you divide by 4?
Yes, before I factor, I'm going to see if I can simplify this, make it life a little easier. They're all divisible by 4. Perfect. So 4 divided by 4 is 1, so x squared. Plus 16 divided by 4 is 4, so 4x. And 48 divided by 4 is 12, equals 0. And this one's even nicer. My a value is 1, so I don't have to worry about dividing by my a. All right, cool. So a times c is negative 12. B is positive 4. So what adds up to negative 12? Or what multiplies to negative 12 and adds up to 4?
6 negative 2.
Perfect. So we got 6 and 2. 6 is positive. 2 is negative. Right? Because 6 minus 2 is positive 4. Cool. So x plus 6, x minus 2, and you're almost done. When does x plus 6 equal 0? When x is equal to negative 6. When does x minus 2 equal 0? When x is equal to 2. So I'm pretty confident about the x equals 2, right? Because I can plug that in. I know if I do 4 times 2 squared plus 16 times 2, I will get a positive number. And what I want to check out is just make sure the negative 6 works. So if I plug in 4 times negative 6 squared, so 4 times negative 6 squared plus 16 times negative 6 plus 15, does that equal 63? And if you plug that into your calculator, just make sure it does. And you should see that it does. Right? So your two answers are there. Right? So x equals negative 6 and x equals 2. How are we doing? Questions on anything so far? Hopefully bringing back some memories from last year or whenever you took geometry. All right, there we go. Again, one more, parallel lines, line L, line K. They're not in the alternate spots now. What are these angles called? What's the relationship between these two? Close.
Let's see. One of them's exterior.
What is it?
Four.
Yeah, starts with C,
Four.
corresponding.
There you go.
Right, corresponding. So if you think about this, if you cut out that section here and you kind of pasted it on here, the 88 is on the top right, and the 3x squared minus plus 4x minus 7 is also on the top right. So they're both in the same position. They're both in corresponding positions in those four angles that are created. All right, that's kind of how I think about it. All right, so, and now, because they're in the same position, these two angles are congruent again. So that's it. So 3x squared plus 4x minus 7 equals 88, hence another quadratic. Again, the way to get to the algebra is just knowing the geometry, recognizing these are corresponding angles. The fact that they're corresponding angles means that they're equal to each other. And now, just bring everything over, set equal to 0, and solve. So let's subtract this 88 over. So 3x squared plus 4x, negative 7 and negative 88 is negative 95, which equals 0. Maybe not the nicest numbers to factor, but you have a calculator. So not too bad. I'm going to do A times C. So 3 times, this case, 3 times 95. 270 and 15 is what, 285? So negative 285. That adds up to a positive 4. Got it? We got
Negative 15 and 19.
negative 15 and 19. And again, this is just you going into your graphing calculator, doing y equals negative 285 divided by x, and then do second table, right? And it'll give you it'll list all your factors for you. And then once you find the 2 factors that give you your 4, there it is. So I'm going to be careful because I have an a value, so I'll make sure I divide by a at the end. So x minus 15 times x plus 19 equals 0, and I'm going to divide these by my a value. Right, I did a times c, so let's get rid of the a that I did. 15 over 3 simplifies to x minus 5. 19 over 3 does not simplify, so I slide the 3 in the front, and you're left with 3x plus 19 equals 0. First question, when does x minus 5 equals 0? And that's easy, when x equals 5. And the next one, a little more work on this one, but not too bad. When does 3x plus 19 equal 0? And that's when x is equal to, bring the 19 over to get negative 19, divide by 3, and you get negative 19 over 3. So 2 answers on this one as well. So x equals 5, x equals negative 19 over 3. Almost done, 2 more to go. Draw an X on your paper, like this one, and you create these 2 angles. What kind of angles are these? What's the name? What's the relationship between these 2 angles? Starts with a V. Vertical angles, okay? And all vertical angles are congruent. And if they're congruent, that means they're equal. So I'm going to take this 9x plus 4, and I'm going to set it equal to this 3x squared minus 8. Right? So all vertical angles are congruent. So the geometry behind this is recognizing that these are vertical angles, recognizing they're equal to each other. Great, set them equal to each other. Now use your algebra to solve the rest. Again, another quadratic here, which means get everything over to one side, set equal to 0, solve. So I'm going to bring everything over to the right-hand side. So I got 3x squared. I'm going to bring over my positive 9x. When I bring it over, it becomes a negative 9x. And then lastly, I'll bring over this positive 4 as a minus 4. And that will give me minus 12. And that equals 0. I could try to factor now, or, I could divide by 3, which leaves me with x squared minus 3x minus 4. Thank you. That makes life a lot easier. And then I could factor this one. So my a value is 1. Better. I don't have to divide by anything. So a times c is negative 4. My b value is negative 3. What are factors of negative 4 to add up to?
1 and negative 4.
Yeah, 1 and negative 4. So here's 4 and 1. This is negative. This is positive, right? Because I want negative 4 plus 1 to give me negative 3. All right, and that's it. So you got x minus 4, x plus 1. Set them equal to 0. X equals 4. So x plus 1 equal to 0. X equals negative 1. Just make sure they both work. The 4 I'm not really concerned about. I can see that if I plug that in, all good. What about the negative 1? If I plug in negative 1 in here, I get negative 9 plus 4, which is negative 5. And that's not a negative angle. So negative 1 does not work. All right, and last one on this worksheet, ABC. So angle ABC is a right angle. Tell me something about right angle. Right angle is how many? 90 degrees. Okay, so right angle. So something's going to total 90 degrees. So there's 2 angles here. I'll call this angle 1. I'll call this angle 2. This is my symbol for right angle. So angle 1 and angle 2 together are my right angles, and they both sum up to be 90 degrees. All right, there's the geometry. Recognizing the word right angle. Right angle means there's two angles that make 90 degrees. Great. All right, now what are the two angles? So here's the algebra, fill in. So my first angle is 10x squared plus 15x minus 10. That's my first angle. Plus the second angle, which is 5x squared plus 2x plus 6. And both those angles together make 90 degrees. Whole bunch of quadratics and linear terms and whatnot, combined line terms. 10x and 5x squared becomes 15x squared. Positive 15x, positive 2x, positive 17x, excuse me, negative 10 and 6, negative 4 equals 90. One more step, it's quadratic. I want to make sure it's equal to 0. Let's bring over the 90. So 15x squared plus 17x. Subtract 90 from both sides. So negative 4 minus 90, negative 94 equals 0. Not the nicest numbers here again. All right, and then I'm going to go right into my factoring here. They must add up to positive 17. These are actually pretty big numbers here. Nothing goes into any one of these numbers. Sorry, they're so big. Can somebody help me? What's 15 times 94?
Now it's 410, so negative.
Yeah.
Okay, so negative 1410. Again, I'm going to go with my calculator, do negative 1410 divided by x, second table, and hopefully I could find some factors that add up to positive 17. Yep.
47 and then negative 30.
47 and negative 30. Gotta love that calculator. All right, so x plus 47, x minus 30, but I have an a value of 15, so I'm going to divide both of these by 15. Don't forget that piece there. 47 and 15, I don't believe 47 simplifies, so I'm just going to slide the 15 in front. So 15x plus 47. 30 and 15 simplifies, so x minus 2. So your last piece here is when does 15x plus 47 equal 0? That's at negative 47 over 15. Subtract 47, divide by 15. And when does x minus 2 equal 0? Simple enough. When x equals 2, I'm pretty confident in x equals 2. I would definitely just double check negative 47 over 15 and make sure negative 47 over 15 works. So your two answers here, assuming negative 47 over 15 works, I know x equals 2 works. And again, just go back in and plug in this one, but I'm pretty sure it works as well. And those are your two answers. That's your first worksheet. 2 points each, 16 points total. You now know how to complete this worksheet. There's a second worksheet I gave you, part B. You have about 7 minutes in class and a whole night worth to do this. Worksheet B coming at you in the next minute.